All right, so today we're going to go over the Fourth Amendment. So, what exactly is the Fourth Amendment? What does it mean? Right? The Fourth Amendment states the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause. And we'll discuss the probable cause. Supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describe the place to be searched and the person or persons or things to be seized. Man, that sounds crazy. We don't even know what that means because that's all lawyer talk. Well, we're going to break it down, right? Because are you tired of either this happening to you or to a family member, that police just feel like they can just walk into your house or walk into your family member's house and do whatever they want, and you have to do everything that they say, and it's all legal? Well, the answer to that is that buck stops now, right? Because the Fourth Amendment is here to the rescue, and they're here to let you know that you can tell the police to get out of my house because you don't have probable cause. So in Hicks v. Arizona, 1987, a bullet was shot through the floor of Hicks, who happened to be the defendant, of his apartment and injured a man living below. The bullet went in and hit him in the shoulder. So this gentleman called the police and said, "Hey, it's raining bullets. A bullet came from the ceiling and it hit me in the shoulder. I need an ambulance." So the ambulance and the police showed up. The police goes inside and they see that there's a bullet hole in the ceiling. So then they go upstairs, they knock on Mr. Hicks' door, and they're like, "Hey, Mr. Hicks, there's bullets that are flying from your floor into your neighbor's ribs. We need to see if there's any more bullet holes to see. We're trying to find out the origin of this hole. If someone just shot a bullet in the air and it came through your ceiling and into through your floor and into them." So Mr. Hicks is like, "Sure, come on in." So he goes in there, and as one officer is looking around where the hole is, and he's trying to see the angle to see where it would be on the ceiling, the other police officer happens to look around, and he sees that there's a mask, there's weapons, and there's stereo equipment, and it all fits the description of stuff that had been stolen with weapons, armed robbery that had been happening at stereo places recently in this part of Arizona. So this police officer takes it upon himself. He gets on the radio, calls back, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to send you some information over the radio. Can you verify the serial numbers of the equipment that had been stolen in these recent robberies?" So he moves one of the boxes just slightly, just a couple of inches. He moves it slightly so that he can read the serial number, and he radios it in. And sure enough, it's the equipment that was stolen. So they grab the mask, the weapons, and the stereo equipment, and they take Mr. Hicks and book him to jail. Now, does this sound right to you? They're in there for one thing, and then all of a sudden, he's getting nailed for something else? Well, there's this thing called the plain view doctrine. So what is the plain view doctrine? The reason for the plain view doctrine is not for exigency or of circumstances, but rather police convenience. The doctrine dictates that there must be three conditions that must be met for seizing without a warrant evidence in plain view. 1, prior valid entry. So they got to be there for a reason, and it has to be okay. 2, inadvertence. What does that mean? That means like, "Oh snap, what is this?" Right? It was just found out an accident. And 3, probable cause. All right, so let's talk about prior valid entry. So if we remember in Hicks, right, the bullets went through the floor. They didn't have a search warrant because they just went there to go see what happened, and they also escorted the ambulance to pick up Mr. Hicks' downstairs neighbor. and they saw that there was a hole in the ceiling. The guy was shot. So they went inside and they knocked on Mr. Hicks' door and said, hey, we need to go inside because we need to see the origin of where this bullet came from that hit your neighbor downstairs. You don't need a warrant for that. It's valid, right? There's definitely a crime going on somewhere, and they're investigating the crime, right? Now, they went in there to investigate this mystery bullet, where it came from, and voila, right? They find that there's stolen equipment, there's weapons that were described, as well as a mask that was described in some recent robberies, right? So they had prior valid entry, right? Because they were there to investigate this bullet, mystery bullet, right? So inadvertence, right? That's when evidence is found without intention. Another way to say it is when it's found on accident, right? The police entered Mr. Hicks' house looking for the origin of the bullet, and boom, they found the stolen mask, the stolen stereo equipment, the masks, and the weapons, right? So they were shocked. Wow, we hit the lottery, right? And lastly, probable cause. Probable cause is a requirement found in the Fourth Amendment that must usually be met before police can make an arrest, conduct a search, or receive a warrant. Courts usually find probable cause when there is a reasonable bias for believing that a crime may have been committed for an arrest, or when evidence of a crime is present in a place to be searched. And we have said earlier that it has to be very specific, right? So if a search warrant has my address and my garage is not attached to my house, and the search warrant says we're going to search 1234 Christmas Tree Lane, and they're going to enter the house and they're looking for me. They're looking for a person, right? So because the garage is not attached to my house, if I am hiding in my garage, they cannot legally enter my garage and search in there looking for me, because now it's an illegal search. Even if they find me, they're going to have to let me go. It's an illegal search. With that said, they cannot go to my house and go through my cabinets to see, because I'm not the size of a dish. I'm not the size of a cup. They can only look in places where it is reasonable that someone or whatever they're looking for is in that particular place. If I have a shed, they can't look in my shed. If I have shrubs in the backyard, if it doesn't mention the entire premises or the lot, they can't look around. They can only look inside the house. So those are some of the limitations of probable cause. So now that we have a slight taste of what the Fourth Amendment is, tomorrow we're going to go over several different cases. We're going to definitely dive deep into Hicks v. Arizona and how that particular case allowed the Plainview Doctrine to come into more defined. Because before then, the Plainview Doctrine was if they see something, they can move stuff. And here they redefined it as plain view is not plain move. Just like he grabbed that box and moved it just a couple of inches, that's what allowed him to get away with that particular, all that evidence had been thrown out, but he still went to jail for negligent discharge of a firearm causing damage or bodily injury to a person. Later on, he got busted for something else. They were able to go into his house because of what they had a search warrant for once he got out of jail for 5 years for negligent discharge. They were able to find other equipment that he should have gotten rid of, and he didn't. And he went to go serve time for that, which was back to the stereo. But we'll learn that again tomorrow.